Welcome everybody. I am the air quotes comedian, an immigrant, but I speak English and I'm white, so, no systemic institutional racism is levied at me. And this is the Polemics. Welcome. Now, I listen to a lot of British comedians, so I can feel terrible about the really bad job I do of being a comedian. I like British comedy, by and large favouring it over US comedy, and one thing I've noticed is that a lot of contemporary British comedians talk about something called Nandos. I left Britain in 2004 for the USA, the very same USA where the comedy is a bit shit since Bill Hicks died, but where you can at least be assured of dying in penury if you need to engage with the healthcare system. So, not all bad. Anyway, as a British comedian, I too want to include Nandos in my comedy routine because I like British comedy, and apparently, if you're a British comedian, then Nandos has to pop up somewhere in your repertoire. It's the law or something. The problem I have is that I haven't been back to Britain since 2004, and so while I too would very much like to take the piss out of Nandos, if indeed it is something that needs a piss take, but I don't actually know what Nando's is. Of course, I'm not a complete idiot. Oops, put a knot in that sentence. Better untie it. I'm not a complete idiot. I did infer that it is some kind of establishment that sells food of some sort. Maybe it's the kind that's even edible. Who knows? Not me. That's fucking who, and that's the point. As a result of being an immigrant, I find I am at a significant disadvantage when it comes to incorporating Nando's in any meaningful way into one of my comedy routines. I am the son of an immigrant. My father was Irish. This possibly explains why I like potatoes, whiskey, and for the preferred structure of resistance organisations to be cellular in nature, with each group acting in a self-regulating, autonomous nature as they either bomb civilians or kill British soldiers. I am joking. Civilians should never be targeted. It was a slight disadvantage being the son of an immigrant, especially in 1970s, 1980s England, where, at the time, the Irish were routinely ridiculed for being stupid, criminal, and lazy. Teachers, eh? In reality, the only reason I got singled out for this kind of abuse was because of my Irish name, Patrick O'Connor. My parents didn't have the foresight to give me a decent English name like Wurzel Awesome Person or Awesome Speedo Pants. No, I got lumbered with my dad's name, and I didn't even get his middle name, or any middle name. So, of course, I was treated absolutely fine by the English. We'd eat potatoes, drink whiskey, do crimes, really lazily, and it was all fine until they learned my name. And then the racism started. If it's possible for white people to be racist to each other, I don't know. I lack the intellectual capacity to discern the possibility of that being the case. The term white trash, coined in the USA after the revolution, was used to describe Irish immigrants, among others. Although used as a pejorative by house slaves, it was really taken up by wealthier whites because white people are so fucking racist that they can discriminate against their own supposed kind. Growing up, I thought I'd change my name by depol when I was of age. But by the time I got to of age, I was like, no, I'm not going to change my name just to assimilate into a culture I actively despise, comedians accepted. No, I'm just going to move to a foreign country, North Wales. If you're British, you may be thinking, hang about, Wales isn't a foreign country. After all, it's a part of Britain. But Wales is a foreign country, right? No, it is because, they speak a different language. I won't call it a foreign language because, in the scheme of things, it's an indigenous language. If anything, the English language is a foreign language. I'm not an expert in diachronic linguistics or anything, so what do I know? To give those unfamiliar with the Welsh language an idea of what it sounds like, Tisha Banned Carried Bach, Kaida Gig Gonsize. So, yes, the language marks it as a foreign country. I mean, not to the Welsh, it's not foreign to them, is it? The other thing that marks Wales as a foreign country is that the character of the Welsh is distinctly different from the English character. The Welsh They're warm-hearted, stoic, have good humour and really like people, other than the English. Well, except during tourist season. I didn't have any problems from Welsh people when I immigrated there for two main reasons. My name marked me out as being Irish, and I can't stand the English either, despite, being English myself. Some people might not see an Englishman who moved to Wales who was the son of an Irish immigrant as being a proper immigrant. Yeah, well, that might be the case, but I'm a proper immigrant now, aren't I? Yeah, as I mentioned a while ago now, I've been living in the USA since 2004. Traditionally, immigrants in the USA have a hard time of it. But when you think about it, when you think of immigrants from Africa or the Middle East or Asia, me, being an English-speaking white European, it is just a simple case of being better off than them because I directly benefit from the systemically racist institutions here. I mean, English is my first and only language. I don't get Americans coming up to me and saying, "Go back home if you can't speak American." I have, and I'm not making this up. I had an American ask me what language we speak in England. I should have said American. Don't worry, Americans don't have a monopoly on stupid questions. I once asked an American what the difference between laying pipe and laying cable was. The sex worker responded, "About $100. I'm still confused, but at least I'm white, so I don't have Americans coming up to me and saying, "Go back home if you can't be a white American." Circling back to the language thing, the last US census showed quite the population spurt for people of colour, including Spanish-speaking people. A quirk of being European is that people living in the Mediterranean countries are seen as white. I mean, if they're white, that is. You'll find plenty of people of colour in those countries too. But you know how in the USA there are Karens and Kens who get all bent out of shape because somebody in public is speaking Chinese or speaking Spanish or speaking Cherokee, and they tell them to speak American or go back to their own country. The Karens and Kens who get bent out of shape because when they telephone the bank they have to press 1 for English or 2 for Spanish. What would you do with the time you fucking save if that language option didn't exist, Karen or Ken? An option, I'll remind you, that isn't there for the purposes of being politically correct, but is there because capitalist concerns recognise that being able to communicate in Spanish due to seismic shifts in demographics ultimately benefits their bottom line. You have to be a pretty entitled prick to tell somebody to speak fucking English, right? For example, one time when I was living in North Wales, I was with my girlfriend and her bunch of girlfriends, and while obviously she spoke to me in English, she spoke to her friends in Welsh, pointing at my crotch and saying, "Pissing bach," and they all laughed. I'm so cosmopolitan, I didn't even feel the need to ask her to translate what she had said. Years later I asked the internet for a translation, the translation being small penis, which just goes to show how inaccurate online translations are. But I digress. When the Karens and Kens of the USA feel bold and entitled enough to admonish people in the public sphere to speak American or go back home, did they somehow forget that the USA is supposed to be a free country? Speak American instead of that Spanish shit. If you can't speak American, then go back to your own country, Karen might say. Fuck off, Karen, the person being harassed might say, quite rightly. I'm a US citizen, New York born and bred, and, for your information, I was speaking Portuguese. You ignorant, airheaded, self-important, self-entitled cunt rag. With the latest census showing a population explosion of Spanish-speaking people, I can't help but wonder what the Karens and Kens are going to do if Spanish becomes the majority language in the USA. Yeah, what kind of fucking meltdown are they going to have if they have to press 2 for English? And perhaps have to be fluent in Spanish to be viable in the job market. Ah, yes, the poor Karens and Kens. They might end up leaving the USA as asylum seekers, refugees. What a fucking shame that would be. Don't let the door smack your ass multiple times on the way out. It's a revolving door, so that's how that could work. I reckon the problem with people who are anti-immigrant and want tighter border controls, racist cunts, get to feel the way they do because they're inhuman pieces of shit who lack basic empathy. They're also lacking in imagination. Imagine for a moment. Okay, a bit longer than a moment because this penultimate bit isn't all that short, despite what an online translator might say. But imagine, if you will, the following scenario. Calamity strikes the USA! Nandos has come to town! No. Let's imagine there's, I don't know, some kind of pandemic. Perhaps a fictional one, like many people in the USA say a real pandemic is, right up to the fucking point they die of it. But let's say there's this deadly pandemic in the USA and a large portion of people refuse to accept it's real. They don't wear masks to protect their fellow citizens. They don't follow social distancing guidelines because freedom. They refuse to be vaccinated. You get the idea. Anyway, this pandemic decimates the population and the economy completely collapses. I'm talking empty shelves at the supermarket, rolling power outages, no gas at the gas pump, hyperinflation, civil unrest, riots. Obviously, Molotov cocktails are off of the menu, martial law, and suddenly there's a military coup, and then the tyrannical shit really hits the fan. You, a US citizen, starving and desperate, decide to get onto a small wooden boat, a boat perhaps older than Noah's Ark, and decide to make a hazardous journey to a civilized country where food is bountiful, jobs are plenty, and they're still showing Dancing with the Stars on free-to-air television. After months at sea, with the deprivations of the voyage etched into your body, you arrive at that distant gleaming shore. Oh look, there's a Nandos. You arrive at that distant gleaming shore only to be told to fuck off back to where you came from because they don't want you there sponging off of their welfare system while simultaneously stealing their jobs while speaking your foreign language. No, they scream as horse-riding border patrol police herd you like cattle. No, they scream. Fuck off back to your own shithole country, you immigrant bastard. I wonder what the attitude of Karens and Kens toward asylum seekers would be then. Yeah, press 3 if you want to be treated like a fucking human being, which is how we should all treat each other no matter where we came from, how we got here, and what our situation is. Karens and Kens. Karen. There's a baby name that is on a par with Adolf these days. Karen, a name so derided and piled on with scorn that it's no longer viable as a baby name anymore, is it? No, not since a bunch of racist, angry, racist, white, racist women ruined it for everybody. By not only being so dumb as to act like their natural selves on the social media, but also to be such an egregiously bad self as to go viral as well. The viral behaviour either to be cheered on by fellow tapeworm-eating, Nazi-saluting cunts or, the regular reaction of human beings. Now, to be clear, I do not defend the Karens and Kens of this world, but I am somewhat put out. You see, under the cavalcade of excrement heaped upon the name Karen, there are those unfortunate enough to bear the moniker, in name only, so to speak. Bear it they must, it seems. Unless they legally change their name or use that weird middle name they've got. I feel for those Karens. Karens who, until around 2018, thought there might not come a time when the mere utterance of their name would cause people to projectile vomit on them before beating them to death with spiked clubs. That's how toxic the name has become, at least. That's how it appears if you think social media is representative of reality. But reflect for a moment for that which is lost. No more babies named Karen. The name Karen has had the septic tank dumped on it. The people dropped squat and crap on it. No more babies named Karen. The parents would rather name them Adolf in this modern climate. A modern climate where the name Karen has been shit upon from a great height. But take a moment, dear viewer, to reflect before rolling up your sleeves and plunging your arms deep into that hillock of bullshit that has been dumped on the name Karen. Root around in there and feel for the name Karen. It is there, dear viewer. I didn't sneakily remove it before you slid your arms into that warm, moist, strangely pulsating mound of shit. Can you feel the name Karen in there? Get right in there, dear viewer. Have a good old root around. Ah, you got it. Let's clean the turds off of it then. Yes, that buffs up rather nicely. Okay, I think it's ready to be presented. Everybody, I present you with the name Karen, and as you can plainly see, it is an astonishingly beautiful name. Not Ken though. You're on your own if your name is Ken. Fuck you, Ken. That's it for this episode of the Polemics. Be sure to hit that dislike button. All the episodes are like this, so once you've heard one, you've heard them all, so you don't even have to come back. Ever. You don't have to subscribe neither, and in fact, I actively discourage it.